Please welcome Wisconsin Supreme Court Justice Rebecca Grant.
Good evening, everyone. I know the night is wearing on, and despite my training as a lawyer, I promise to be brief. Before I became a judge, I practiced law in the private sector for over 16 years, but I really felt called to the judiciary. And I was honored when Governor Walker appointed me to the Milwaukee County Circuit Court bench back in 2012. Before I even took the oath of office, I had an opponent in that race, and a few weeks later, I had another opponent. And I was able to win my election in 2013 in Milwaukee County for a variety of reasons. And one of those reasons was I had strong support from law enforcement in Milwaukee County, including the Deputy Sheriff's Association, and I know we had some people from that association here tonight. I was also able to win my election thanks to talk radio, including Vicki talking about my race and letting people know about it. And I also give a lot of thanks to you who are in this room, because you turned out to help me at a grassroots level get the word out, get my nomination papers signed, put yard signs out in snowbanks, and otherwise support my candidacy. And I was really pleased that I won my election in 2013. I absolutely love my job as a member of the judiciary. I enjoyed my time at Children's Court for 2.5 years in Milwaukee County. It was a tough assignment in many respects, but it was an extremely rewarding one. I did leave that position earlier this year after the sad passing of Judge Ralph Adam Fine, who served on the 1st District Court of Appeals in Milwaukee County for many years, and the governor appointed me to that position back in May. And I also want to introduce all of you to the woman who has been appointed by the governor to my seat on the Circuit Court branch of 45, Judge Michelle Havis. So I just stand up, Michelle. Michelle will also be on the ballot on April 5th, and Michelle has, I'm calling her Michelle because we've been friends for 15 years. We practiced law together at White Hirschbeck for several years. Judge Michelle Havis has an opponent simply because she was appointed by Governor Walker, so you can expect another very politicized race in Milwaukee County, and I hope you will all turn out to help Michelle win election. She's an absolutely fantastic judge, and Milwaukee County is very lucky to have her. I spent about 4 months on the Court of Appeals, and I'm really glad that I had that experience. It prepared me well for the job I currently hold as a Wisconsin Supreme Court Justice, and I am the first Wisconsin Supreme Court Justice in the history of the state to bring experience both on the trial court bench and on the Court of Appeals to the Supreme Court. And I am motivated by a couple of things. There's a reason I left 16 years of private legal practice to join the judiciary. I am motivated by the belief that it is vitally important that we have judges and justices who understand our duty to apply the law as it is written by the legislature, who will not impose personal policy preferences or legislate from the bench. It is extremely important that we have a judiciary that respects the separation of powers and will uphold the rule of law. And I decided to become a member of the judiciary because I hold those principles dear. And I care very deeply about our state. I am from Milwaukee County. I was born and raised in the city of Milwaukee. I care deeply about my county as well, and that has motivated me to do this public service that I'm absolutely honored to do. The other motivation that I had for seeking a seat on the Supreme Court specifically is because I think I have something positive to contribute to that court, which has been described as having a bit of dysfunction. I think I bring a great judicial temperament and personal temperament to the Wisconsin Supreme Court. In my nearly 20 years experience in the legal and judicial professions, I have always been able to get along with my colleagues, in the legal profession when I was a practicing lawyer, was always able to get along even with adversary counsel in the heat of battle in the courtroom. And as a member of the judiciary, I have always been able to get along well with my colleagues and have respectful conversations and debates about points of law, even when we sharply disagree on those points of law. And I have a couple of stories, and they're very brief, from my first couple of weeks as a Supreme Court Justice on that note. I was sworn in last Monday by Chief Justice Rogan Sack, and it was a really special and proud moment for me. And I looked at the nameplates in front of each of our chairs on the bench at the Supreme Court, and every one of the justices is identified by a J, except Chief Justice Rogan Sack has a CJ in front of her name, and then the last name. But as you probably are aware, there are now 2 Justices Bradley on the Supreme Court, so they had to put our initials of our first names, or in the case of the other Justice Bradley, her 2 initials in front of her name. And I looked at my nameplate and it read J.R. Bradley, so you can imagine what my nickname is at the Supreme Court. And the other Justice Bradley looked at her nameplate and it reads Jaw Bradley. She looked at that and said, I think I'd better change that. So I wanted to let you know that there is a sense of humor alive and well at the Supreme Court of Wisconsin. My other really quick story about that is there's a tradition among the justices that when we are behind closed doors in the conference room and somebody knocks on the door, a law clerk bringing a case to one of the justices or something like that, it is the junior justice's job to answer the door. But Justice Prosser is too much of a gentleman sometimes to allow me to get the door, and he sits close to the door as well, so he will get up and answer the door so I don't have to, which I thought was really very nice and gentlemanly. So there is both a sense of humor and some chivalry at the Supreme Court of Wisconsin. As has been mentioned, my race is on the ballot April 5th. That is the general election, but there is also, during the dead of winter, a primary because I have 2 opponents in this race. The primary is February 16th. The general election is April 5th. And I, again, am so grateful for all of the help and support that you've given me over the course of my judicial career. I really hope that I can count on your help and support during this race because I will need it. And I also want to end by saying it is really my honor and my privilege to serve the people of Wisconsin as a member of the judiciary. Thank you so much. And